I know from eating dinners with you, Pimm, that you're a big fan of steak places, and I hadn't realized steak prices had risen.
Yeah, well, I think the thing to do, first of all, the issue has to do with the cattle herds, right? How many cattle are out there and the price, and there's a seasonality to it. And I know that Alan follows this closely because it also is related to what the cattle actually eat, and there's been a drought that's been going on in Canada. So, Alan, just give us the details about what exactly is happening with the cattle herds in Canada and how that affects prices.
Well, Pimm, you're exactly right. And if you take a look at the chart of food prices that we've been seeing with steak prices going through the roof, a lot of it is connected with Canada and its drought. We saw this happen in the United States in 2012. There was a big drought where ranchers were forced to cull their cattle herds because there just wasn't enough grass for them to eat. You're seeing that happen in Canada now, and Canada not only is the 7th largest exporter, about 1/3 of its beef actually goes to the United States. So what happens in Canada affects U.S. markets. Now, U.S. markets were starting to recover from that drought. Farmers have been building up their herd inventories over the last 3 years. But as you have this demand and that dependence on Canadian supply take place, if you take a look at our chart on beef cattle futures, you're also seeing an elevated level for those futures as well. So Canada's supply situation is affecting what U.S. demand can be for beef, and it's raising for a higher price for your steak.
And, Alan, I'm wondering if you could also talk about the seasonality issue, because typically in the summertime you see a decline in beef prices.
Well, this is the summer grilling season, and again, farmers and ranchers are preparing for that. Stores are preparing for that. They're getting more inventory going on. But again, if you have a supply shortfall that has been years in the making, it's hard to get that supply coming off well. Also, take a look at beef prices in comparison with other prices. You know, pork had some issues last year with a virus that decimated herds. Those supplies are being rebuilt. Chicken has not been affected so much by the avian influenza scare, but you've seen a little bit of an effect on broilers on the margins in that market. So even though beef is relatively more expensive, so is everything else as well. So the consumer doesn't necessarily have as many places to go for an alternative.
Maybe we'll get, though, the really good stuff, like the Kobe beef out of Japan for less now because they can't sell their Chinese stocks in Asia, and they're going to let go of every other asset they can for a discount.
Well, I would say that's a connection that I had not thought of before, so maybe that will happen.
What about, the higher end, Alan? Argentinian beef I think of as more luxurious than Canadian.
Well, and Argentinian beef is going to have some increased import opportunities in the U.S. because of some USDA actions in the last couple of weeks. But again, these markets take a long time to cycle through. If you were a Japanese grower of premium beef, you would have had to have picked this out 3 years ago to know this.
All right, I will definitely now be having a steak for lunch.